Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The city of Newport was shrouded in the dark veil of night, but its streets still echoed with the sounds of cars and the late-night chatter of passers-by. Streetlights cast an orange glow on the sidewalks, creating long, moving shadows. In this peaceful setting, Samantha Brooks walked alone, her black leather handbag clutched to her, her steps quick but assured on the cobblestones. At first glance, Samantha appeared to be an ordinary young woman, her hair tied back in a ponytail, a leather jacket and black jeans, a gentle but determined face. But those who knew her knew she was no ordinary woman. Since her teenage years, Samantha had held a black belt in karate, trained in a rigorous and constant discipline. Her body and mind were trained to remain calm in the face of fear, to analyze every movement and react with precision. That evening, she was returning home after a long day at her father's shop, located downtown. The customers had been demanding, some even rude, but Samantha had remained calm. She crossed Maple Street, an alley rarely frequented at this hour, when a shiver of alert ran through his body. A black car suddenly appeared and stopped a few meters away from her. Two masked men got out, armed, their faces hidden by balaclavas. One of them pointed a gun directly at her, his hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline. "Give me your bag and phone, quick," the man yelled. Samantha didn't panic. Her heart was beating rapidly, but her breathing remained controlled. Every muscle in her body was tense, ready to react. Her gaze quickly scanned the situation, the narrow street, the nearby car, the possible exits. The robbers thought they could intimidate her with their appearance and weapons, but they were completely unaware of the strength and experience hidden behind that calm face. She took a step back, then a step to the side, adjusting her stance. Her training kicked in, she knew panic was the enemy and every move had to be precise. What the men didn't know was that this night would turn into a lesson they would never forget. Samantha's fates and those of these robbers had just crossed paths. One thing was certain, no one would leave this alley the same way. The black car had stopped abruptly on Maple Street, as if time had stood still. Two masked men ran out, their footsteps echoing on the wet pavement. One of them, tall, muscular, with a visible scar on his left cheek, pointed a gun at Samantha. "Give me your bag and phone, now," he shouted, his raspy voice betraying his excitement and nervousness. Samantha took a step back, analyzing the situation. She noticed the lack of coordination, the man on the left seemed to hesitate, while the one on the right was watching the alley, looking for a quick exit. Her years of training allowed her to remain perfectly calm. Every fiber of her body was tense, ready to react. The first man approached, raising his weapon, intending to intimidate the young woman. Samantha silently made a quick lateral movement, grabbing the attacker's wrist and using her own momentum against him. He lost his balance and fell heavily to the ground, the pistol slipping from his hand. Her shocked accomplice fired immediately. Samantha narrowly dodged, feeling the bullet pass close to her shoulder. Her mind calculated every move. A roundhouse kick would incapacitate the remaining man, but she had to be quick and precise. "You should have stayed home, girl," the second man yelled, raising his fist to strike. Samantha blocked the blow, pivoted, and delivered a perfectly executed leg sweep. The man staggered, unbalanced, and fell against the brick wall of a nearby building. Before he could get up, she grabbed his arm, twisted him around, and slammed him to the ground. She resumed her position, ready for any eventuality. The two men gasped, surprised and frightened. They had never seen a woman so agile and powerful. In the dim light of the alley, Samantha's figure seemed almost supernatural, calm, focused, determined. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed behind her. Samantha quickly turned around. A passerby, apparently a witness to the scene, was shouting for the police. The panicked robbers exchanged a glance and decided to flee. The wounded man picked up his gun from the ground, but Samantha, with a quick and precise movement, disarmed it again, throwing it into a nearby trash can. As the black car sped off to escape, Samantha felt a cold but clear sense of satisfaction. She had just survived an armed attack, but more importantly, she had just shown these men that they had underestimated the strength and determination of a woman who would never be intimidated. At that moment, Samantha knew that tonight would mark the beginning of a story where fear and danger would never again be synonymous with vulnerability. The black car sped off, its tires squealing on the wet pavement of Maple Street. Samantha watched the attackers' trajectory. They seemed to think they could escape easily. But she had no intention of letting them go. With a quick movement, she grabbed her bag and pulled out the safety spray she always kept on her. She aimed at the car's rear tires and fired a precise burst. One of the tires burst with a pop. The car skidded slightly, forcing the robbers to slow down. Taking advantage of the confusion, Samantha ran after them, her movements quick and agile. Every stride was calculated. She dodged obstacles, jumped over trash cans, and weaved between parked cars. Her karate training and physical discipline gave her extraordinary endurance, allowing her to maintain a steady pace without losing focus. The driver of the car, a tall, nervous man, turned around and shouted, "Catch her! She can't follow us." But Samantha had already anticipated their reactions. She positioned herself in front of a narrow passage, forcing them to slow down even more. When they tried to reverse around her, she deftly dodged and neutralized their maneuver by striking the door with a precise roundhouse kick. The car shuddered, but continued onward with difficulty. As she continued the chase, she heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police. Samantha realized time was on her side. The robbers, feeling the pressure mounting, began to panic. She grabbed a rock from the sidewalk and threw it at the rear windshield. The glass cracked, and the men screamed, unsettled. Taking advantage of that moment, Samantha rushed to the car and, with a series of calculated movements, opened the passenger side door and grabbed one of the men by the collar. She slammed him forcefully onto the sidewalk, completely immobilizing him. Her remaining opponent grew frightened and attempted to flee on foot. Samantha gave chase. Every step, every movement, was precise and methodical. She knew exactly where he was going, anticipating his moves as she did in sparring matches. At that precise moment, an unexpected witness emerges from the shadows, Detective Marcus Hale, an experienced police officer, who had been alerted by passers-by. He watched Samantha in amazement. Seeing her alone face two armed men, without hesitation and with such skill, left him speechless. "Wait," he shouted, running towards her. "Let me help you." Samantha, still focused on the last robber, simply nodded. Together, they would put an end to this threat. Suddenly, a movement to the side caught his attention. A man in uniform was standing there, a radio in his hand and a watchful gaze. "Stop," the man shouted authoritatively. Samantha recognized immediately Detective Marcus Hale, a police officer respected for his calm and insightful manner. He wasn't trying to show off, he simply wanted to end the situation without anyone getting hurt. The robber, frightened, stopped dead in his tracks when he saw the officer. "Back up," he yelled, brandishing his weapon. Samantha didn't make a hasty move. She positioned herself between the robber and the detective, her feet firmly planted on the ground, ready to act. "Let him go and we'll sort this out calmly," she said in a firm but calm voice. The robber hesitated, but Samantha's confidence and determination unsettled him. He hadn't expected to see a woman so calm and confident in a situation that would have paralyzed many men. Detective Hale then stepped forward cautiously, his hands slightly raised, but ready to intervene. "I just don't want anyone to get hurt," he said. "Put down your weapon." Samantha gave a subtle nod, and in one fluid motion, she leaped toward the robber, grabbing his wrist and twisting it precisely to disarm him. The blade and pistol fell to the ground with a metallic clang. The robber screamed in pain and fell to his knees. Hale quickly approached, handcuffing the criminal as Samantha sat up, breathing calmly despite the adrenaline. She glanced down the alley. The accomplice's car had disappeared into the night, but she knew it was only a matter of time before the police found them thanks to her intervention. "You're amazing," Hale said, visibly impressed. "I've never seen anyone handle this alone." Samantha smiled slightly, her eyes shining with determination. "I've learned to never underestimate my opponents. And it's not just about strength, it's also about strategy and self-control." For Hale, it was clear, this was no ordinary woman. He had just met someone who could turn a desperate situation into victory. Together, they would now hunt down the remaining accomplices and end this threat for good. The alley was silent now, interrupted only by Samantha's rapid breathing and Detective Hale's measured steps. But Samantha knew the last accomplice wasn't far behind. Her instincts, honed by years of karate training, told her the man was looking for an exit to surprise someone. Suddenly, there was a cracking sound behind a dumpster. Samantha immediately spun around, detecting the subtle movement. The robber appeared, gun in hand, his eyes filled with panic and rage. "You won't catch me," he shouted, pointing his pistol. Samantha ducked just in time to dodge the shot. The weapon made a sharp clang as it hit the ground. Hale rushed to the side, ready to intervene, but Samantha signaled to stay back. She knew she could handle the situation. The robber's every move was predictable to her. With a quick swing, she struck his wrist with the side of her hand, forcing him to drop the weapon. Then, with a deft sweep, she knocked him to the ground. The man tried to get up, but Samantha, focused, used a throwing technique she'd perfected over the years. He rolled onto the pavement and lay motionless, unable to move. Detective Hale then stepped forward and handcuffed the criminal, gently but firmly pressing him against the brick wall. "It's over," he said, impressed. "You were amazing." Samantha stood up, wiping the sweat from her forehead. Her gaze was calm, but her muscles still pulsed with adrenaline. "You should never underestimate someone who knows how to defend themselves," she replied. "And you should never rely on fear to control someone." The robber, panting and stunned, finally understood that he had been totally dominated by a woman he had believed to be weak and vulnerable. In the Newport night, Samantha stood tall, proud and determined. For passers-by or locals who would later witness the story, she would become a symbol of courage and mastery. But for her, it was simply the reward of rigorous training and discipline. In the face of threat, fear was not an option. The siren of a police car sounded in the distance, breaking the heavy silence of the alley. Within minutes, several police officers Newport arrived on the scene, surrounding the area and securing the scene. Passers-by, attracted by the noise and flashing lights, had gathered, watching the scene in amazement and admiration. Detective Hale calmly explained the situation to his colleagues. "These men tried to rob this young woman. But she managed to neutralize their movements thanks to her mastery of martial arts." Samantha stood beside him, still a little out of breath, but her face calm. She watched the two robbers, handcuffed and flanked by the police officers. The tall, dark-haired man with the scar on his cheek had a scared look on his face and his jaw set, finally realizing that he had been completely overwhelmed by a woman he had thought vulnerable. An officer approached Samantha with a notebook. "Miss Brooks, would you like to tell us what happened? It might help us with the report and the prosecution." Samantha nodded, her voice calm but clear. "They thought they could intimidate me. I used karate techniques I learned since adolescence to defend myself and neutralize them. Fortunately, I was not injured and no one else was put in danger." Detective Hale smiled and added, "She handled the situation perfectly before we even arrived." "It's impressive." Passers-by, who had been watching the scene, began to applaud timidly, some taking photos or videos. The story of a young woman able to defend herself alone against two armed men would quickly spread through the neighborhood, and soon throughout the city. The robbers were led away in police cars, their faces etched with fear and shame. Samantha watched in silence, knowing that the experience had changed something in her. She better understood the value of her discipline and inner strength. Before leaving, Hale turned to her. "You should consider sharing your skills. Newport could use more people like you." Samantha smiled slightly, looking thoughtful. "Maybe I will, to help those who think they are alone in the face of danger." As the police cars drove away, the alleyway returned to calm. But for Samantha Brooks, this night would be remembered as the moment she proved that you can never underestimate a determined, driven woman. The next morning, Newport was in turmoil. The amateur video of Samantha Brooks neutralizing the two robbers was already circulating on social media, shared by stunned residents. The local press was quick to cover the event, headlined, "A young woman alone stops an armed robbery thanks to her karate skills." In her apartment, Samantha stared at her phone. Notifications poured in, messages from friends, comments from strangers, newspaper articles, and phone calls. Some neighbors had come to congratulate her in person, while others simply wanted to see the woman capable of accomplishing a feat few men would dare attempt. Detective Marcus Hale called to speak to him. "Samantha, I've read all the articles. You've become an example for the whole city. But be careful, some media outlets exaggerate the facts and that can attract the attention of people with bad intentions." Samantha smiled, amused but serious. "I understand, Marcus. I'm not looking for fame. I just want people to know that it's possible to stand up for yourself and protect others." In the following hours, several local radio and television stations wanted to interview Samantha. She agreed, but always with reservations, emphasizing the importance of discipline, training, and self-control rather than mere heroism. At high school, university, and karate clubs in Newport, her achievement became a hot topic of conversation. Young girls, in particular, saw her as a role model, proof that strength and confidence weren't limited by gender or appearance. Meanwhile, the robbers, now in custody, were beginning to realize the magnitude of their mistake. Their attempted crime, which had seemed easy to them, had not only failed, but had exposed their incompetence to all of Newport. Samantha, for her part, felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. She knew her life had just changed. She had gone from an ordinary woman to a public figure, a symbol of courage and resilience. And if anyone sought to challenge or underestimate her in the future, they would now know that she would never be intimidated. A few days after the incident, the two robbers were behind bars, awaiting trial. The prison air seemed heavier than ever for them. The tall, dark-haired man with the scar, who had been thrown by Samantha, kept rubbing his sore wrist, recalling every move that had humiliated and incapacitated him. The other one, the one who had tried to escape in the car, was visibly psychologically scarred. In his cell, he repeated in a low voice, "How can a woman? How is that possible?" Not only had their actions failed, but they had exposed their robbery network to the police. Thanks to Samantha's testimony and video, investigators were able to trace several accomplices and prevent further planned crimes in Newport. In court, the tension was palpable. Samantha was called to testify. In the crowded courtroom, she stood tall and confident, her voice clear and calm as she recounted the events. She explained how she had used her karate training to defend herself and neutralize the criminals without injuring anyone. The judge, impressed by his precision and skill, sentenced the robbers to long prison terms. One of them whispered to the other, "We'll never come back here, ever." For the Newport community, this case served as a lesson: underestimating someone could be very costly. Samantha became a living example of courage and self-control, showing that a single woman could confront armed criminals and neutralize them with intelligence and strength. In the days that followed, Samantha received messages of thanks from many residents, but also from young women who saw her as an inspiration. Some newspapers even spoke of her as the heroine of Newport, a young woman whose calm and competence had made all the difference. Detective Marcus Hale, who had been following the whole case closely, smiled at him. "You did more than defend yourself, Samantha. You protected the city and led by example. Newport will never forget that night." Samantha nodded, a slight smile on her lips, aware that her life had just changed. She had discovered that her strength was not only physical, but also moral and symbolic. The weeks following the incident were a turning point in Samantha Brooks's life. Local and even some national media outlets were interested in her, but Samantha wasn't seeking fame. She wanted to turn her experience into something positive for her community. With the help of some friends and the support of Detective Marcus Hale, she decided to open a small karate school in a working-class neighborhood of Newport. Her goal was not only to teach martial arts, but also to instill discipline, self-confidence, and respect, values she knew were essential for young people to feel empowered to protect themselves and others. On the first day, Samantha welcomed about 10 children and teenagers, all curious and a little intimidated by this woman who had become famous overnight. She observed them carefully, assessing their posture, their energy, and their state of mind. "Today you won't just learn how to punch or defend yourself," she told them, her voice soft but firm. "You'll learn about yourself, how to stay calm in the face of danger, and how to respect your limits. Strength lies not only in the body, but in the mind and the heart." The young people were captivated. Some were quiet boys, others shy girls, but all felt Samantha's energy and determination. They quickly began to understand that discipline and self-control could transform their fear into confidence. Detective Hale occasionally came to observe the classes, offering advice and support on security and logistics. He saw Samantha not only as a peerless fighter, but also as a mentor capable of inspiring an entire generation. The school's reputation grew quickly. Families came from nearby neighborhoods, hoping their children could benefit from this unique training, where courage, self-control, and personal protection were taught with as much rigor as technique. Samantha felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she watched her students' progress. Every perfectly executed stroke, every fluid movement, and every confident smile was proof that her experience that fateful night had had a lasting impact. She had transformed danger and fear into strength and inspiration, not only for herself, but for her entire community. A few months after opening the karate school, Samantha Brooks had already become a recognized figure throughout Newport. Her reputation was not only based on her exploits against the robbers, but on the way she chose to transform this experience into something constructive for the community. Detective Marcus Hale continued to play a discreet but essential role. He regularly visited the neighborhood, not to monitor Samantha, but to ensure the students' safety and encouragement. Gradually, a closeness and sincere friendship developed between them. One afternoon, while Samantha was correcting a young student's posture, Hale approached. "You know, Samantha, I never thought I'd meet someone like you in my career. Your determination and calm in the face of danger, it's rare." Samantha smiled. "Thank you, Marcus. But I'm not doing this for the recognition. I just want these kids to know they can stand up for themselves and feel strong." Hale nodded, impressed. "And you're doing it perfectly. But I must admit, I'd like to learn something from you. Not to fight, just to understand your discipline." Samantha laughed softly. "So I guess you're ready for your first karate class." What began as a simple collaboration quickly evolved into a partnership based on respect and trust. Hale and Samantha organized safety workshops together for the neighborhood, including assault prevention, tips for staying alert, and strategies for protecting young people in dangerous situations. One evening after a class, Hale suggested, "You know, Samantha, with your expertise and my experience in law enforcement, we could do even more for Newport. We could organize community events and sessions to teach families how to protect themselves." Samantha thought for a moment, then smiled. "Why not? After all, that's exactly why I started this school. If we can reach more people, I'm all for it." Thus, from their unexpected encounter in the alley that evening, a strong and productive friendship was born. Together, they not only formed a formidable crime-fighting team, but also an inspiring example of collaboration and trust for the entire city. Samantha understood that this friendship went far beyond mere support. Hale was becoming a loyal ally, someone who believed in her and her values, and who shared her desire to make Newport safer and stronger. A few years had passed since that fateful night when Samantha Brooks had neutralized 2 armed robbers in Maple Street. Newport had changed, and so had she. The karate school she founded had become a respected community center, where hundreds of children and teenagers came each week to learn self-defense, but more importantly, to develop confidence, discipline, and inner strength. Samantha watched her students train, each focused on their movements, each learning to channel their fear and energy. Her gaze lingered on a young girl who had just performed her first kata perfectly. A proud smile lit up Samantha's face. She knew that, thanks to her example and her teachings, these children would grow into confident and responsible adults. Detective Marcus Hale entered the dojo, greeting the students before approaching her. "You know, Samantha, every time I come here, I realize how much you've changed this city," he said admiringly. Samantha smiled, humble. "It's not just me. Every child who learns here transforms something within themselves, and that ripples throughout Newport. True strength isn't just about fighting, it's about getting back up, standing up for yourself, and inspiring others." On the city streets, her name was now synonymous with courage and determination. Residents remembered the night a lone young woman faced off against armed criminals, but more importantly, how she chose to turn the experience into a force for good. As she left the dojo for the evening, Samantha looked up at the starry sky. She remembered that first attack, the initial fear, and how she had drawn on her skills and discipline to face the threat. A sense of peace and satisfaction washed over her. She knew that her strength came not just from her arms or legs, but from her heart, her mind, and her determination to protect and inspire. The city could sleep a little more peacefully, and Samantha knew she was ready to face whatever life might throw at her. The real victory wasn't just surviving that night, but transforming fear into inspiration and violence into courage. In the heart of Newport, Samantha Brooks would forever remain a symbol of inner strength, resilience, and courage.